So in terms of, say, if you're trying to pick content for different platforms, it can be very expensive and time consuming to be producing content for unique content for lots of different platforms. So how can brands actually know what sort of video content, what type works best on what platform? Or is there no difference and you can kind of just push the same thing across multiple platforms?
So you can get away with pushing similar content multiple platforms a little bit. However, the place you need to start with when you're making video content, when you're making any content really, is start with your brand. You have to be true to your brand. Anything that you do that deviates from what your brand is and how your brand is perceived, which may not be the same thing, that sort of content that's anything that's deemed inauthentic, it's just not going to catch on. It's not going to work. So make sure whatever you're putting out is true to your brand, is matches up with your brand's identity. That's absolutely crucial. Anything that's not on brand, you may as well not do.